The era of common sense in Indiana has officially been incinerated, replaced by a chaotic regime that seems intent on self-sabotage while the world watches in disbelief. In the midst of a glaring roster crisis, the Fever front office just delivered a calculated insult to fans and the Caitlin Clark era alike, with the breaking news of their developmental contract usage. The initial shock has rapidly mutated into a tsunami of absolute fury. They possess a single high-value roster slot, a golden ticket held for a month, and instead of securing a much-needed interior enforcer or versatile forward, they doubled down on backcourt clutter by signing an eighth guard, while opening night footage laid bare a team being physically dismantled and bullied in the paint. The decision-makers chose to ignore the laws of basketball physics in favor of a total snake oil maneuver. This isn't a simple mistake. It is a declaration that the front office is operating in a distorted reality, actively jeopardizing a generational rookie season. The fan base hasn't just reached a breaking point. They have ignited a total revolt against a management team that appears completely disconnected from the brutal physical reality of the hardwood.
My goodness. Herb Simon. In case you don't know who Herb Simon is, he owns the Indiana Pacers. He also owns the Indiana Fever. You got your ears on, Herb. I understand you're 91 years old. Whoever your handler is, whoever is running the entire basketball operations, something's got to be done. You got to do something about the leadership with the Indiana Fever, the front office, and one Stephanie White.
The mathematical negligence at play here is staggering, bordering on a total organizational collapse. Before this acquisition, the roster was already suffocating under the weight of 7 guards, a surplus of backcourt depth featuring the generational gravity of Caitlin Clark and the explosive scoring of Kelsey Mitchell, alongside Raven Johnson, Tasha Harris, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, and Shatorai Walker-Kimbrough. To add an 8th guard is to construct a tactical graveyard where spacing is sacrificed and elite talent is marginalized. This isn't just a flawed strategy. It is a fundamental betrayal of championship-level roster construction executed on a national stage. The statistical horror of opening night against the Dallas Wings proves the structural rot. Despite a combined 73-point masterclass from Clark, Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston, the Fever collapsed in a 107-104 overtime nightmare. While the starting trio delivered elite, high-octane production, the foundation crumbled the moment the rotation shifted. The bench was an unmitigated catastrophe, contributing a dismal 22 points with efficiency levels that defy professional standards. The reality is undeniable. When the interior was physically dismantled and the stars needed reinforcements, the front office's obsession with backcourt clutter left the team defenseless in the paint, turning a celebration of a new era into a preventable disaster.
You heard me say it. Stockton and Malone style. Stephanie White even said Stockton and Malone style. Before she even got hired, I was talking about John Stockton to feeding Karl Malone, and it was deadly. Nobody could stop it. And there has not been a damn thing that showed any team in this league could stop Caitlin Clark feeding Aaliyah Boston. But after 14 games, Stephanie White has said, nah.
The tactical failure of the Dallas matchup was broadcast in neon lights, a double-digit rebounding deficit, and a complete physical capitulation in the paint, with Monique Billings sidelined in the rotation featuring non-factors and rhythm-deprived minutes. The front court was effectively a ghost town. Despite a perfect shooting performance from Saxton Timpson, the coaching staff's refusal to leverage that production left Aaliyah Boston isolated and vulnerable to physical exhaustion. The entire basketball world identified a desperate need for size and rim protection. Yet the front office responded with a definition of insanity by adding even more backcourt clutter. This is a diluted pattern of hoarding guards while neglecting the interior, a trend Wnba Pro has consistently exposed since the draft. By stockpiling perimeter players and ignoring elite forwards, management has constructed a roster that defies the laws of basketball logic and actively sabotages their own talent. We are witnessing a franchise held together by a single elite post player and inconsistent role players. A structural disaster that feels less like a mistake and more like internal sabotage by decision makers who are fundamentally out of their depth. Then, the situation spiraled even further.
Yeah, by the way, you're not doing all of that stuff that Stephanie White's been talking about. Oh, you're going into the blue tent and all that. You're not doing that unless there is an issue. Otherwise, that's the first time I've ever heard of that in the history of sports. Me covering it and or consuming it. First time ever. We have signed a guard, Bree Hall, to a player developmental contract. We have signed guard Bree Hall. I got nothing against Bree Hall, but it's a guard. I mean, we needed guards like we need to catch rabies. I mean, seriously. Like we all need the swine flu.
The timing of this developmental acquisition is a psychological assault on a fan base already pushed to the brink. These roster slots are engineered for high upside prospects with elite potential. Yet management has weaponized this opportunity to double down on a failed, small ball philosophy that was just physically erased on national television. By prioritizing yet another guard over urgent front court reinforcements, the front office is signaling a total detachment from reality, effectively ignoring the blueprint for success. Stephanie White was recruited as a high-level strategist to unlock a historic Clark-Boston connection, but she is being sabotaged by a front office, handing her a toolbox of screwdrivers and demanding a skyscraper. You cannot execute elite offensive geometry when the opposition can ignore your bench and swarm the perimeter with impunity. This isn't just poor management. It is a clinical demonstration of organizational stubbornness that leaves the coaching staff in an impossible vacuum and has ignited a total, unadulterated fan revolt. This is where the era of patience officially ends.
Here, Fever front office had the option of hiring someone who would make Caitlin Clark more comfortable, but you chose to feed the clan that hates Caitlin Clark. And you've done this several times already. It can't be coincidence. Fever doesn't deserve CC. Free CC. Are you people afraid to get a big? Nothing against Hall, but a guard is not going to solve your problems. Again, you need a big. Never mind. This unserious franchise is turning the Indiana Fever into South Carolina women's basketball. Good hell to the Lord have mercy. We don't need that. Another guard. I guess they didn't.
The backlash in the fan base transcends a single transaction. It is a visceral reaction to a month of cumulative organizational negligence. This audience is the most statistically literate and protective in the history of the sport, and they have been vindicated on every front, from the failures of the off-ball philosophy to the fatal lack of interior depth. This eighth guard acquisition serves as a definitive smoking gun, confirming a fundamental misreading of the team's DNA. The coaching staff is now trapped in professional vacuum where no correct answer exists. Defending the move signals a total detachment from reality, while criticizing ignites an internal civil war before the season's first month has even concluded. Management has effectively handed the locker room a fire extinguisher filled with high-octane gasoline, creating a volatile environment where a total explosion is no longer just a possibility, but an inevitability. The era of blind loyalty is over, and the fallout from this decision is about to reach a catastrophic boiling point.
Problems who can create rotations to allow Aaliyah and Caitlin's job to be.
To that point, I've watched.
Not only that, but by all means, send your coach in to do an interview with one of the biggest Caitlin Clark haters on the planet. I'm gonna use a word you don't hear very often anymore. Cahoots. Are you motherfuckers all in cahoots together? Y'all got that CBA and said, nah, we're good. We got it now. I hate to break it to you. The one thing you better be concerned about is that media rights deal. Because there are ways that networks can go back to leagues and say, we're not getting what we signed up
The stakes for Wednesday night's clash against the Atlanta Dream have escalated to an astronomical level. Atlanta is descending on Indiana with a clear directive to exploit a decimated interior defense that has been laid bare on film. The strategy is obvious: relentless rim pressure, knowing the Fever lack the personnel to stabilize the paint. If Aaliyah Boston is neutralized by foul trouble or sheer physical exhaustion, the response is yet another guard, a tactical absurdity that risks fielding a lineup of perimeter players against a professional front court. Ticket prices, once seen as a premium, now mirror a fire sale for a product rapidly hemorrhaging the trust of its core supporters. Fans are waking up to reality that the cost of admission may finally reflect a roster that refuses to confront its own structural rot. This isn't just a slump. It is a clinical disaster. WNBA Pro is exposing the